Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be doing an album review, and that is going to be to the band Ghost and their sixth brand new studio album, Skeleta. So, like I said, this album just came out a couple days ago in late April, and this is going to be Ghost's sixth album. Now, this one here does have the new version of Papa the Fifth, if you will, which is what I call him. But anyway, obviously it's Tobias Forge and all of the nameless schools. Now this album did have three singles released as of now. You had first Satanized, and then you had Lacrima, and then you also had Peacefield coming in here as the most recent one. So, and I will say each of those, we did do a reaction to Lacrima. So I will say that one is probably my favorite of the three so far. But all three of them are pretty good singles to go off of this record. So and as we go into the track listings, I'll explain why I think that those three are probably the best ones and the best choices from the album to use as singles. Just wanted to jump in here, guys. If you guys enjoy this content that we're doing here, please like the video, please share it, and then please subscribe. That helps the channel out so much, just helps everything that we're doing here. And also leave me a comment as well. Always interested to see what you guys had to say. Now let's jump right back into this video. This album here is on Loma Vista Records, and also like people describe this album as hard rock, arena rock, even pop rock, very melodic, and that is what we come to think of as Ghost, especially within the last like five years or so. I even hear people throwing the term like glam rock into some of these songs, which I can kind of understand where they're coming from with that, but when I listen to this, I don't necessarily think of glam metal or, I think more along the lines of maybe like a pop metal, but not necessarily like glam metal or like Def Leppard. Like I heard the comparisons, like there's some Def Leppard on here, which, yeah, I think you're going into some of that melodicness. I can see why you would think maybe like throwing a Def Leppard influence, which, you did see some of that on Impera as well, which was the previous album from 2022. But I think that's a little bit of a stretch too much. I mean, I'm cool with just calling them like pop metal or like very melodic metal. And I don't know. I'm not going to go as far as to say like they have. And now that Tobias is influenced by glam metal and such like that, he has said like hair metal and such. But I don't know if I'm necessarily going to be like, this is the first thing. The first thing I'm thinking of is hair metal when I listen to this album. Not really. So let us look here at the inside. Just basically your normal Ghost. Now I will say the colors aren't very bright on this album, which is kind of uh I wish the cover was a little bit more outstanding, if you will. Like some of the other ones, like Impera here does have different colors in it, does pop, and obviously Prequelle behind me here, as you can see. The colors just jump out a little bit more. The design jumps out. It's fine for what it is, but I just kind of was like, it's all right. Probably one of my least favorite album covers from Ghost. And now another point too, I would say, with each installment of the Papas, with this being the most recent one, this is the first Papa that we heard of Papa 5. So with each Papa, are we getting a little bit more melodic and more poppy? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of what I was thinking of when I was listening to this. I listened to this album probably over 7 times since the last couple days since it came out, and I gotta say I like it, but it's not my favorite Ghost album. I will say, and I'm a big fan of the melodicness that Ghost brings to the table throughout the whole catalog, and also recently. But there was just some songs that were just kind of okay or meh. But I also kind of said that about Impera. Like I liked Impera when it first came out, but as the years went on with that, which is kind of crazy that it's been like 3 years since it came out now. But as time went on with Impera, I did find myself going back to it and enjoying more and more of it as every month or every year that went by. And it's possible that this is going to be in the same boat for me. So first here you have Peacefield, which is the most recent single, which is good. I like the intro to it. I like how it's just like that high, uh, maybe like angelic voice, like in like the first 30 seconds or so. It kind of has that builds that atmosphere. I like it. Good stuff. Peace Field's fine. That's good. Now we're going on to the next single here, or the second single, I guess. La Crima. I like this song. I think it's one of the it is my favorite single and one of my favorite songs off the album. Now I will say this song here and also the third song on the album and also the first one that came out from the single for the singles purposes. Uh, those two songs really remind me of Ghost from pre Impera or even from Impera and back. You know, like the past couple 5 to 10 years, I would say, past 2, 3 albums. Um, those are your vintage Ghost, like your Ghost fan, your diehard Ghost fans, especially of the older stuff. I think you would like those two songs the best of the material on this album. That's kind of just my feel for it, at least in my view. I feel like that's like, oh yeah, that's vintage Ghost right there. Compared to the rest of the album. Now, moving on here to the fourth track, we got Guiding Lights. I like this. I remember the first time I listened to this album, or the first time I spun it. This was one of the songs, one of the deep cuts. I was like, okay, very memorable. Has that mid tempo type feel going on, not too fast. You know, just setting the mood, and very very good stuff there. Now moving on here to De Profundis Borealis. Now I am probably going to be saying some wrong pronunciations on this album and such. It is what it is.
There's no way you can pronounce that right.
But anyway, as far as the song goes, it's a decent song. It's fine. It's cool. I'm all right with it. So now moving on here to the sixth track, you got Cenotaph. I think this is where you start to see the weakness of some of these tracks. It just doesn't hold up to the rest of them. You know, it's very poppy. You know, and I think that's where some people have a lot of complaints with this album. Like Tobias kind of goes overboard with the poppiness. Now, I don't necessarily. I know I have seen and read people complain about that, but that is kind of the territory of Ghost. So that doesn't really like offend me like it does other people. And I do like, you know, very melodic stuff, very melodic metal and stuff. Like I'm cool with that. I don't have no issue with that. But I think there are some songs on here that just kind of go a little too overboard for their own good, if you will, and just kind of like really goes nowhere or just it's just kind of there, you know. But a cenotaph, you know, like I said, very poppy, just doesn't really go anywhere. That's kind of like the best way I could explain this song. So moving on here to track number seven, Mycelia Amon. Now this one here, I will say, is mid tempo. Very does have a groove to it. Pretty cool riff, and maybe one of the heavier songs on this album. And I dig it. Good stuff. Very cool, especially coming off of Cenotaph. So I think once you get to Amore, it's just it it makes that song that just that much better then. So now moving on here to track number eight, we have Marks of the Evil One. It's fine as well, but also we're getting very poppy again here. The guitar solo is decent, but that's another thing too. Like I was kind of expecting. Now there are guitar solos on here that are very good, back and forth, like dual type guitar solos on, especially on like the three singles, and throughout the album. But I think for me, I was a little um not unimpressed, but like just kind of like, you know, I don't know if it's just the mix of the guitars or the guitar solos themselves. Because I, like, after like a couple times I listened to this album, I was like, you know, I don't even remember like more than like three of these solos on this whole album. Now they are there, but I'm like, I don't know. They just, I don't know if it's just not memorable or they're just not high enough in the mix to really grab my attention. I had to like sit here and listen for the guitar solo and be like, oh, okay, that's what it is, or yeah, there it is, you know. So I'm just was, like I said, they're good, they're fine, but I don't know. I think that's what kind of makes me think that they're just a little too low in the mix for me. But as far as like the guitar work, there's great guitar work on this album. I have no issue with that in and of itself. But I think also you got the layer of poppiness going around here, like as far as like keyboards and stuff. Every album I listen to in metal, I'm looking for guitar solos. I That is the first thing that I'm looking for, and some albums just don't have it up front, and I have to look for it, and I'm like, like what? Why do I? Why is this so? Feels like it's so low in the mix or kind of hidden. Like I have to kind of look for it or listen for it. That doesn't necessarily hurt the song, but for me, the song could be a lot better if it was more upfront and more wild. I mean, I just like wild guitar solos there too. So I mean, maybe I'm just being a little too harsh, but the song's fine in and of itself. Now moving on here to the next track, the ninth track, you got Umbra. This is another one that is it's just okay to me. The verses are kind of boring. Like I the some of the like I said, man, some of these songs just kind of the deep tracks, the deep cuts anyway, just kind of are there. Like they don't really. When I'm listening to, I'm like, okay, like I can listen to it. They're fine within the context of the album and stuff, but nothing that really like blew me away. Like I would say stuff like the deeper stuff on Prequelle or Impera or even like the earlier stuff. Like the earlier stuff had some really good deep cuts on there as well, and you would even argue maybe the strengths of the album. So I don't know. I like Umbra is just okay to me. It might not make the iPod either. So now going on to the final track, we have the longest track coming in at 6 minutes. We have Excelsis. Very good. I like this track a lot. It's just kind of like a somber, slow tempo, not necessarily ballad, I would say, but it's a very good, slower farewell, track to end the album and be like, okay, like I'm interested in playing this again right now. Like it makes you want to come back to this album and replay it. So the album certainly starts strong and it ends strong, in my opinion, with the final track. But just some of that in between songs here, it just kind of misses for me. And like I said, not a bad album. Like there are plenty of bands I would kill to have a good album like this. So to me though, as far as a rating goes, I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5. But there, like I said, with Impera, like it took me more than a couple spins to really, and some time to really get into that album as much as I do now than when I first listened to it. And the same thing could be said for this for Skeleta. So it certainly has room to grow. But right from the start, I'm giving it a 3.5. It's fine. It's good. Nothing I would necessarily say I'm disappointed in Ghost or by any means. Like I think this is a good attempt, especially if you're trying to go even more poppy, which I don't know. I mean that is what Ghost is. I get it. Like and that is the charm of Ghost as well. Is like that they can bridge all these different kind of subgenres of metal, and more times than not it works. But I just think there was like two tracks on here that just kind of were like, you know, they're just not gonna make the iPod, and just not really that memorable. So, but the whole band sounds good still. Like it's fine. It's polished. It is a polished record, production wise. Not that I necessarily think that hurts the album either. I think that's fine. I think it's just a couple of these songs are just a little weak as far as just memorability. So, as far as my favorite tracks on the album, you can't go wrong with either of the singles that are out. That all three singles are good, and I agree with them being the first three singles. If there are no more singles that are going to be released, but as far as the deeper cuts, the outro track is great. The final track, Excelsius, Guiding Lights is good, and also I really enjoy Massilia Armori. Very good, kind of heavier stuff there, but like I said, 3.5 out of 5. I'm not bashing it by any means, but there were some little details I was like, I wish maybe like the guitar solos were higher in the mix, maybe, or something just wasn't that memorable in this song and stuff. But nonetheless, it's still recommended. I still recommend this album, especially if you like that melodicness, very heavy in melody and even pop elements to it. But and also too, if you like Ghost's previous catalog, it's nothing out of left field either. So like some people, like I said, some people were complaining about how poppy and polished it was. I mean, I expect that though from Ghost. So like that's not to me like that wasn't like a big shock and was like, oh no, this album sucks because of that. No, that's not. I don't get where people are coming from with that. Now, yes, is this the most polished album? Arguably, yes, it probably is. But like I said, that's not out of left field for Ghost, especially if you listen to the last two albums. Like they are going in this direction, and I would even argue even on their first album, yes, it was heavier, but they, Ghost always had that poppy feel, always had that polished feel. Not like this, no, but like they were always a cleaner band, in my opinion, and that is what some of the charm was that they had this look and image about them, but they had this cleanness to their sound. So I think that is to me that was one of their charms, and and I've been a fan even since before COVID. Because I remember when Prequelle came out. I remember when Rats was released, and our radio local radio metal channel were playing that. And I was like, okay. And I might have actually even known of Ghost a little bit before that yet, because I specifically remember Ghost before that, before Rats came out. So, but it is what it is because I do I'm I wasn't there at the beginning. I would say I wasn't there in 2010 for the debut. So it had to have been somewhere like in the 2017 2016 range. I started knowing of Ghost, and then once Prequelle came out, then I started really collecting the Ghost stuff and have their catalog now. So guys, let me know in the comments what you think of this new album, the Skeleta, the sixth studio album from Ghost. Let me know if you think it's too polished, if you think it's just right, or am I just going crazy and this whole album's perfect? I mean, I can understand why people really like it, and a lot of people do like this album and don't have no issues with the production or anything like that. Like I said, I just think a couple of these tracks on here were just a little weaker for me. So, but I'm still giving it a 3.5. Alrighty, guys, that wraps up this review. Let me know in the comments what you think of Ghost Skeleta. And until next time, guys, stay out of that collateral damage. And if you guys enjoyed this video, check out what Papa thinks of having cell phones in his concerts right here.
Yeah, I wrote that. It's called I Want to Rock Your Body. And then in parentheses it says to the break of dawn.